Hey, you hosers get your car caught in a gate? Well, you're in luck, because Bez Video Kingdom is brought to you by McKenzie's Ram Van. We can ram you right out of that gate, no problem. We'll have you back on your way to get your donuts and back bacon before you can say, eh? So you hosers just need to come on over and sign our waiver so that you promise us you will not sue us for whiplash. Beer not included.
That's serious twang you got.
You went through. You did 42 different accents. At the beginning, the Canadian was pretty solid, and then you were immediately from the South.
I love it. Great job. Great work.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Hello.
You hoser.
Get off it,
Yeah, we are going to go ahead and start our podcast this week, and we are talking about a classic of cinema from the early 80s. This is Strange Brew. Strange Brew, starring Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, basically taking their characters from the SCTV, the Canadian version, basically, of Saturday Night Live. Their characters, a couple Canadian bumpkins, and they are Bob and Doug McKenzie. They go on some adventures, some chaos, hilarity ensues, and it turned into a very cult classic style movie that if you know it, you love it. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
I'll talk about it. Brad's looking at he's looking at our like little org board like somebody should say something, and we're all just looking at him like, what the fuck?
We gotta stick to the board.
Well, let's go ahead and talk for a second just about the movie. So the movie was
aren't
actually,
you first?
I guess I am first.
Let's go ahead and talk about it.
Call your own number, Brad.
All right. So this movie, Strange Brew, not only did I say who it was directed, I mean who was acting in it, but they also directed the movie. Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas directed the movie, and it was $8 million is what it made. It cost $4 million to make, so it doubled its money.
What did they spend $4 million on?
That's a good question.
And in 1984 dollars, that's like $35 million.
It's the background painting of the, I believe, of the insane asylum in the brewery.
The paintings are so terrible in this movie. It makes you laugh. I mean, it's actually hilarious in a sense. So the funny thing about this, the Bob and Doug McKenzie characters is that they start off on SCTV, like I said, SNL kind of ripoff. And the only reason they actually got created is because SCTV was on the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. They required that at least 2 minutes of any show that is on the Canadian Broadcasting Company has to devote 2 minutes to Canadian actual like talk.
Like a cultural thing. They're like, you have to say A every 42 seconds.
Can they just call each other hosers and say A a lot?
Essentially, that's what happened. So they had to have 2 minutes devoted to Canadian culture, and Bob and Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas were like, hey, we can make some characters and we'll just be super crazy stereotypical about kind of redneck Canadians, and that's what they did. And so that's how they got on SCTV.
That's what a redneck Canadian looks like?
God.
They're so much more like refined.
I mean, they got toques and shit like that, and
take
big
off,
jackets,
poser.
so they're probably not getting, their necks are probably not getting red.
They lived at their parents' house,
but they do call them hicks. I mean, that's kind of it's a typical Canadian hick is actually what I guess the correct word would be. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of how they got their start. They ended up recording an album, and back in the early 80s, making an album, a comedy album was kind of the thing to do. And so they did a comedy album for Bob and Doug. And John Candy from SCTV got a movie that kind of was doing all right. And because of that, they're like, hey, any of you other SCTV people need to make a movie? And they jumped in. And they actually were told by the company, they were like, yeah, you can't do it. We own those characters. And they're like, well, we'll have somebody else write it. So they had a guy they know write it, and he couldn't really get into the whole language of Bob and Doug because so much of it is improv and ad lib, and so they ended up kind of rewriting it themselves, and it became Strange Brew.
So just really quick, Brad, I need a history lesson because this was a movie that I've never seen. I have heard of it, but I didn't know anything about it. I assumed it was a John Candy movie, which doesn't seem so crazy now that I know that he was also an SCTV guy.
Yeah. God damn, some of these Canadian guys are just hilarious.
So my history lesson that I want is, was this a big hit at the time? I don't understand like the cultural significance of Strange Brew. What's the deal? Was this a cult thing?
So SCTV was it started off on Canadian TV and then actually got brought to American TV and was on American TV. Again, back in those days, it was like 4 channels, like ABC, NBC,
right.
CBS, and so they actually SCTV got picked up, I think, by NBC or something, and they were actually broadcasting it. So it had hit culturally. The show had hit in America. I mean, Eugene Levy and John Candy.
Oh, they were both SCTV guys?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It was a murderer's row of like comedians, dude. Like, I mean, no joke. And so they were making some funny stuff, and people were digging it in the United States. So
I want to watch the Eugene Levy John Candy buddy comedy.
Oh, yes.
there is a movie that they're both in, I believe.
That sounds dope. We need to do some research on that.
We need the Google on that.
Isn't John Candy isn't he in Splash too?
Yeah.
Because
There's a drunken scene in Splash.
Levy is, so they're both in that together.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, some
Armed and Dangerous.
Armed and Dangerous. There you go.
They're both prominently featured.
Yes, Eugene, there you go. That is a Candy Eugene Levy movie. And all those guys kind of ventured off into different things, and we'll talk about it a little bit later about there's a particular person in Strange Brew that moved on to Eugene Levy, obviously being prominent in all of the Christopher Guest movies.
Yes.
And Paul Dooley, who plays the uncle, he's been actually in quite a few of the different Christopher Guest movies. So,
But was this movie a hit?
I mean, when you make $8 million, probably not. I think it was more just the people that watched it loved it, and most people just didn't watch it.
It's crazy. So if we're going to get into our reactions, I'll go first. My reaction last night, I rented on Apple TV Strange Brew, and I laid down on my couch. And about 20 minutes in, I fell asleep, and I woke up to the credits of this movie. And so I got up off the couch. I went to sleep. I got up the next day, and I nated this movie. I watched it throughout the day.
Sorry, what did you do?
So the next day, today.
You just turned me into a verb. What does that mean?
I nated it.
That's multiple episodes throughout the day.
Yeah, when I nate something, that means that I'm gonna just take little chunks of it and just kind of just sexily eat it into a microphone.
You might say, like, another way to put that would be like, you're going to make it last a really long time.
Yeah.
That sort of.
It's the tantric
accurate
version of watching a movie.
Like, bro, you totally nated that.
So,
I needed it.
I accept that.
We need to make that a verb.
So here's what I want. This is a great spot for this tangent. So I had texted Zach that I needed to make sure that I brought this up. So
No. He texted me and said, "Make sure I make fun of Nick about this." And I said, I will make sure you remember. There's nothing that I enjoy more in this life than making fun of Nick.
So it's well known that I tend to the running joke on the pod is that I watch movies in seasons and episodes. So I have a special ability to break up like a 2-hour movie into maybe like 12, 15 watching sessions across 6 devices.
Do you usually watch them like during shits or in between shits?
Oh, I never actually. I don't do things while I shit. I shit.
That's crazy talk.
So how are you going to make fun of me?
Wait, speaking of shitting, I mean, can we not just comment on the fact that
We spent all last pod talking about Nate's asshole
I'm just
getting
saying,
blown out.
Okay,
asshole.
There was some inaccurate information just perpetuated on this the last pod.
Extremely accurate.
I was indisposed because I had a upset stomach, which meant that I was nauseous and I felt sick. but
I've seen
the idea that my quote unquote butthole was turned inside out.
Turned
Who said that?
out.
That is inaccurate, and I am going to stick to my story that I was simply nauseated.
So your butthole was right side out the whole time,
You
right?
had an upset
it was
booty
correct
hole.
side in.
Yeah,
Did you
upset
figure
booty
out
hole.
what it was from? Was there any extenuating
What did the investigation-
circumstances or what?
My youngest daughter had some sort of stomach thing earlier in the week. That's my only hypothesis. That and the simple fact that like I was getting a little nervous about whether or not I would win my 5th draft. Just took the best of me.
And we found out.
So here's
let's
get to
fucking
this.
to
So Nick drops like
I tried to delay it, Nick.
I
tried
forgot
my
we were
best.
making fun of Nick.
I was
you know
trying
what it is
I
too,
was
Brad?
trying to avoid it. No,
So you
I
know
don't
what it
know.
is?
This is
I was
brand
having
new to
so
me.
much
So
fun
Nick-
talking
these guys
about
were
Nate's
plotting
angry
against
butthole.
It's just Zach and Nate
so
Yeah.
Nick
sexting
We're gonna start developing some teams here. We got team
in
Zach
between
and
nut,
Nate
in between
and
nut pick.
Team,
Brad.
team Angry Brown Eye.
Nick dropped, and this is not the first time this has happened. He dropped the little nugget that he'd woken up at 4 a.m. to watch.
That's how much
the
I care
movie.
about you guys out there listening and this podcast. That's how much I care about doing a
you know
thorough
what I mean?
job, unlike Zach, who reportedly
I haven't
and
even
spoken
finished
in his
my
own
story.
words, fell asleep and did not finish.
I did
not
finish
watch
the
this
movie.
movie.
Wait, is it
This
Nate,
film.
You think this is a point of like making fun of Nick?
I think
No,
so.
it's
too.
okay.
I'm saying what it wasn't so much making fun of, although yes it is. But what I'm saying is I want to know. This is so I watch movies in small segments. Nick wakes up at an ungodly hour, pounds
The
coffee,
Nate-
and then
the
is
Nate
like,
butt
"I'm
crack.
going."
Before the sun.
The Nate butt crack of dawn.
How do you two watch movies?
I just like the fact
Nighttime.
that Nick. I mean, you'd hear somebody's waking up at 4 in the morning. You're just I'm gonna get a hard workout in or something like that. It's like, God, I gotta watch this.
Gotta
fucking
get it.
movie.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
It is kinda
Denise is
funny.
like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" "Oh, I gotta go watch a movie."
I got to punch. I got to punch.
fucking AM.
I got to punch in, babe.
I like it. I can just picture
That's how I picture it. Is like Nick
Hey.
getting up and like going to the factory. And
Nick's
turning on
newborn
the-
baby
turning
is
on the-
crying, and she's like, "Oh, he's gonna get up and take the baby." He's like, "No,
No,
you need to
Strange
get the
Brew's
baby.
on.
I'm watching a movie."
Baby on lap, strange brew on, coffee in hand. You're welcome for the visuals out there.
No, I had this plan as a movie night for my kids, and we sat down and we start to watch it. Like I had to pay for it because I don't have a copy. My brother's got a copy, and all of a sudden, like 5 minutes in, I said something about like, "Oh, you know this part," and like my daughter's like, "Well, yeah, we watched this last summer with Uncle Andrew at the when we were up at a lake, and they stayed." And I was like, "You guys watched this without me?"
Oh, were you hurt pretty bad?
Single tear.
So
I like that.
So all of them were like,
Oh,
"Hey,"
single
they're like, "Oh yeah,
tear.
we can keep watching. We can keep watching." I was like, "Fuck that."
You just disowned them.
Brad turned it off and
go to
put
your
on
bed-
Muppet
Did
Christmas.
you go to your bedroom and just lock the door?
We switched it up. I didn't even know we did. I think we might have watched some fucking dumb YouTube videos. I was just like, "Fuck this, we're watching YouTube."
I can't believe
That's-
that.
I was upset. I was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna get to share this with my kids, and I forgot
exactly
that."
the
So
Watching
wait,
breaks
just to be
Brad's
clear,
heart.
they weren't like, "Holy shit, this is that amazing movie that we watched with Uncle Andrew last summer."
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it was pity of them being like, "Oh no, we can still watch it," or if they actually really wanted to still watch it. So that's a mystery that we may never solve.
So back from the tangent, I'm talking about how I feel about the movie. I fell asleep during the movie. Whether that had to do with the last call beers I was drinking or what it had to do with, I'm not sure. But I woke up the next morning, I went to work, and I little by little whittled away at Strange Brew. And I got to tell you guys, for an hour of this movie, I literally hated it. It was painful to watch. It was like
Which
a
hour?
Saturday Night It was like a Saturday Night Live skit that wasn't funny. That was an hour long, and God, I struggled so bad. And I told my wife, she was at home earlier this evening, and I said, "The movie's not good, babe." She was like, "Oh, I've never seen it," and I said, "You're not going to." And I said, it needs to save itself in this last 35 minutes. I've got 35 minutes left. This movie needs to save itself. And I know shit, you guys. I laughed like 20 times in the last 30 minutes of this movie. I literally hated it for the first hour. And in the last 30 minutes, they finally fucking embraced that they were going to be weird.
Wait.
and went off the wall.
I'm sorry.
In
Hold
the
on.
beginning, dude,
You're
it
telling me
was-
the first hour you were like, this is
Dude,
just too
This is
boring
a
and normal?
I was just like,
The fuck
I was
movie
just
were you
like,
watching?
there's gonna be a funny part. I know there's gonna be a funny part, and I just kept waiting for it, and it never happened. And then in the last 30 minutes, they really like ever since when the van goes off the thing and you get back from intermission, I enjoyed the movie after that. Before
Zach
that,
ate 17 gummies,
Zach-
and at
I
some
was
point they
like,
kicked
oh
in.
my
He was like, "Oh
God.
my god, this is so great!"
but I literally laughed several times pretty heartily at the end of the movie. I liked it. I'm curious to know what the rest of you guys thought of it because, man, I was struggling in the beginning. And then at the end of it, I really feel like they embraced they were going to get fucking weird and the dogs flying through the air and shit just got real weird. And I loved it from then on. But in the beginning, it was a struggle bus. What do you think, Nate?
Nick,
I think I want to hear what Nick has to
Oh,
say.
my bad.
let's talk to
Okay.
Nick.
All right, so hopped up on 2 cups of Joe.
Okay,
I'm gonna set
it's
a scene
4:10
right here.
a.m.
The sun is not up for another hour and 45 minutes. It's
Longer than the
Luckily, it's a 90-minute
runtime
pitch
movie.
dark.
of the film.
Coffee cup.
Started and finished in the dark.
Oh, I love that runtime. No, but saw the runtime, got very excited about the runtime, and then found myself looking at the clock and wondering how much
How
more
can an hour and a
of
half
this-
take this long?
Can they really say A after every sentence in the entire movie?
Is Amazon fucking with me? Hour and a half? Bullshit. Okay. So I feel like I knew pretty early the weirdness. Like Zach was too busy whittling to notice something not notice that in that first hour. But I kind of knew what it was early, got the gist of it. There were parts throughout it. I felt bad. I felt guilty, Brad, the way that I felt about the movie because I know how much you cared about it, how much
I felt
Scott
the same
cared
way.
about it. I felt like I knew I was kind of prepared for it. I really was. I knew it was an early 80s, right? We have the Best of Times connection,
Oh yeah,
and we've covered that in our Basement Tapes White Album that's going to be released in 2030. And Zach and Nate, first time watchers of Best of Times, were not big fans of Best of Times. Zach specifically hating it, and his entire family, literally pissed.
he's just busy. He had to describe
They
divorce.
pissed on their TV after watching it.
Forgot about that.
But we love that. And in my eyes, there's nothing wrong at all. Like it's almost a perfect movie, Best of Times. So it's like I was trying to put myself in Brad's shoes with Strange Brew and Scotch's shoes with Strange Brew, and I couldn't.
Those shoes were
shoes-
fucking old
the
and
shoes
did
are
not
small.
fit and were not funny.
Souls are falling off. All right. Well, look.
Okay, I'm laughing. Okay, I'm done laughing. Hold on. But there were parts. The Chuck Norris lawyer killed me. I showed my wife it before I came to the pod tonight. She was cracking up. It's just amazing. There's definitely parts, and it goes off the rails. And I like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It reminds me of a movie like that.
Agreed.
I have some questions when we get to drinking with the director, just about the special effects. But it's early.
Like, were you
80s,
there,
but-
bro? Were you
but
directing?
It's early 80s. It's early 80s. So, anyways, that mixed kind of.
So I had thought I'd seen this movie because and true story, because I think I can picture having seen it on the shelf, 100 times in actual Bev's Video Kingdom back in the day. And I would see it over and over again, and I always pick it up and then not take it home. And I think I just never took it home. I thought I had it in my head that I did. I probably had it in my hand, a dozen times.
Well, quick side note on that is that I read an interview with Dave Thomas where he was talking about that this movie was considered what's called an evergreen with Blockbuster and stuff like that, which means that all of their video stores had multiple copies of this movie just because it was that type of cult classic that was always
classic.
rented out and people were always renting it across all video stores, which is kind of hilarious because it's an interesting movie.
Yeah, so I had not seen it, and I realized that a little ways in, and I had kind of a weird bifurcated out of body experience with this one,
I like that.
which is on the one hand, like I hated it. So like I was like, this is not my kind of movie. But then I had these two other reactions. One is there were constantly these little nuggets that like I got it. I was like, okay, that's fucking funny. Like I don't want to blow all of them because they're only a handful, and I want to save some shit for later. But there's like a few little things in there where I was like, oh, this is really funny and clever and cool, and I get it. But it was also like I've known Brad a long time. Like Brad and I went to preschool together, and I've known his weirdness. That's kind of like a sneaky weirdness. Brad's he's kind of like an undercover fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Because if you know Brad in real life, he's like everybody thinks Brad's like the nicest and friendliest, and you might even say like normalist guy. Like he's very like jovial and friendly and kind of can talk about all kinds of things and relate to anybody.
You had a nicest
yeah,
dude
super
ever.
nice guy, right? Really friendly. But he's got this really like counterculture-y undertone that you don't know, which is Brad likes to like shit that's kind of just like that it is stuff that people don't like.
It's like when you meet Brad and he walks up and he just looks like a totally normal dude, and then he turns around and he's got two braids coming out the back of his hat.
Fucking A.
It's like a mullet.
It's like
business in the front, party in the
Mullet
back.
braid form.
It's like a snake mullet. So for me, it was like I was like, oh yeah, I see him. It was like I'm seeing Brad here because like it had all the little elements, right? Like it's just offbeat enough and kind of unexpected enough in exactly the right way. They play fucking hockey, which Brad likes, in a place where no one plays or likes hockey.
Loves hockey.
Loves hockey. They have there's just all these like they play a lot with words and things and play that they do a lot of like silliness with their words, which Brad loves in movies. So like a little bit of my experience was not. I wouldn't say that made me like the movie more, but it felt very familiar to me because I've been in Brad's car a million times when he's made me watch YouTube videos or listen to songs or forced me to watch some fucking movie.
This is Mr.
Like,
Bungle. Listen, Nate.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Like this is. I'd say it was like I was like wrapped in a warm blanket of Brad's weirdness.
My
And I
comforting
was like,
weirdness. I love
oh,
it.
my best friend.
It's because they were
It's fucking
spooning. They were
weirdness.
spooning while they were watching. That's why.
So
Warm blanket was Brad.
So yeah, it might have been Brad wrapped around like a spider monkey. So I would say I hated the movie, but it also felt familiar in a very happy and warm way.
Well, on that note, we need to bring in Rick and Dave. Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas. They are the two stars. They are the creators of the characters.
Those are who we're sitting down with?
Yeah.
They are the directors, co-directors of the movie.
I fucking love that. I thought there was going to be some weird Canadian guy we'd never heard of that we were going to have to sit down with and drink.
They said, we've got this shit. We can handle this. We're going to be the main stars, and we're going to direct the fuck out of this. So they came in. They're going to sit down. And what are we all drinking on tonight?
Hopefully we have some small chairs because Rick Moranis looks like he's about 5'1". Does he not?
We have stools.
Yeah.
So what do we got? I think in a little bit of a sneak preview of what's coming up this Thursday, I think we might be drinking some Last Call here.
Our judge brought just some of the most awesome beer. Some of the beer that he brewed for his wedding. What was it called?
That was To Hop and To Hold.
That's the sickest name for a wedding beer ever. And what's the other one? Brad,
He brought the signature, which is their hazy IPA called Karate in the Garage, which for a movie podcast is the shit, and that's what I'm drinking.
And we will talk about that at some point because we'll have to ask him about that.
Nate has actually poured his hazy IPA over Diet Pepsi.
It's delicious. It's a great mix,
He
actually.
says it's delicious.
Just a splash
some
of
grenadine,
grenadine.
just a
and
splash
it's
of
just unbelievable. That's Last Call Brewing, by the way, in case you guys are all
Last
run
Call
out.
Brewing, Oakdale, California. So we've got Nick. You drinking same stuff, right?
What was in the other big can that came? The cone.
Oh, that's the good old cone of.
I hope it's silence.
It's not silence. It's two words. But
Cone of Shame.
Cone of shame, cone of silence. My dog's worn both.
Cone of uncertainty. Cone of uncertainty.
Uncertainty. Sir.
Uncertainty.
it's delicious.
It's perfect because we were very uncertain what the fucking name was.
Topical. All right, so we got Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas sitting down, and we're going to talk about some director shit. We're going to find out. We got questions.
I got a question right off the bat. What the fuck? The most baffling scene in this movie to me is the hockey scene. What the fuck was going on? What is happening?
Mine's connected to that.
They never connect like the music making the hockey player.
Well, and
It's like
the beer's going out to the public, right?
There's not
and so
a lot of-
what is their? How do they intend to control everyone with music when it gets outside their brewery?
the outfits.
Hey, I'm going to stop you guys now. You guys are asking too many questions. Way too many questions already.
The stormtrooper outfits that all the hockey players are wearing that have zero bearing on the story at all. I was just
Also-
waiting for something, and then they're like, they're playing hockey, but they're not playing hockey. They just run into the guys. I don't understand.
Same suits used in Spaceballs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I love about them is they look like stormtrooper costumes that
Yes.
somebody bought at like Rite Aid.
They look like
They
if
got
there
weird
was like
spikes,
an erotic
weird spikes
convention
on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, if there was an erotic convention and you were going to be like an erotic stormtrooper, that is the one you'd like without the cock piece. You know what I mean? You'd come out in it, and everybody would be like, "Oh, he
Yeah.
can't hit me with his fucking blaster."
I have to admit that the whole like using the music to control people. I don't know how Brewmeister Smith was going to.
They never
actually
paid it off, right?
play music to control people after they drank all this beer. Like, I mean, you know what? Actually, it kind of calls. I mean, it's a movie in the future, but if you have not seen the Kingsman Secret Service, they kind of have this whole thing where they're passing out these phones and people get these phones, and at one point, it's going to play a ringtone that kind of
Yeah.
fucks people up. And so, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, the scenario.
Zoolander too.
Zoolander, yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Control people with music. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, the thing they're going for. But yeah, they
We're
don't-
asking too many
They
questions.
I
don't
like that.
they don't develop
Zoolander
it too
taking a
much.
cue from Strange Brew.
Well, we know that we do know that the Strange Brew took a page out of Hamlet, and if you actually
Dude.
look at the story of Hamlet,
I texted Brad about this earlier.
I know I was like, it's loosely loose, but it is my favorite version of Hamlet because I mean, it hits all the right notes. Uncle trying to step in, kills the dad, and somebody's pissed, and they don't want that to happen.
I'd never seen the movie, and I searched it on Google, and underneath it says adaptation of Hamlet. And I text Brad, I was like, is this an adaptation of Hamlet? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, they gave it to the screenwriter. The first screenwriter, they're like, hey, man, we kind of like the story of Hamlet, so kind of go that way.
That's so awesome.
Go that way, eh?
So I've got a question for these directors, and this is sort of a casting question. How did they decide to cast? And I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but the daughter is supposed to be 21 years old in this movie.
Yes, they say that specifically in the movie.
Yeah, she was 32 when it was filmed, and she looked like she was 40.
Really?
Ouch.
I didn't think she looked like she was
I don't
40.
think she
but
looks
she
like she's-
definitely
I'm
didn't
not
look
saying
21.
Face, I'm just saying, like, maybe it's because it's an older hairstyle, but it's a very like mom jean wearing.
The
look.
chicks with that hairstyle now are 54.
Yeah.
Well, Lynn Griffin, the actress, she's a notorious horror movie. So Zach, she's kind of in your vein because she's been in a ton of horror movies and thriller movie that type. That's been like her whole career has been mostly that stuff. But yeah,
Did she
32 years
typically
old.
play somebody that's half her age in this? Because I was like, did they say 21? I literally am like I had to back it up like 3 times to make sure that they actually said
No
21.
joke, Nate. As they said that this time in my watch. I mean, I watched this movie probably 50 plus times. I actually was like, okay, they say she's 21. How old was she actually when this was filmed? And then I had to do all the math and figure out. And I was like, oh fuck, she's 32. Yeah, that's like Beverly Hills 90210 shit.
It's Luke Perry status. R.I.P. Hey, is Luke Perry on? Is he on Cameo?
I was going to say, are we RIP
Dead.
Luke Perry
Dead on
now?
camera.
Of all the people we've talked shit on, we're RIPing Luke fucking whatever his name is.
Luke Perry, man, don't respect the Burns.
All right,
I was just about to
my question, of course, first for the boys would be, how much was their actual drinking? Because they do play some reasonably real drunks. I mean, they're kind of in that stupor the entire time, where it feels like they've had 6 or 7 beers the entire movie.
I appreciate that they never go full drunk, though. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
They're
They-
pretty coherent the entire time, which I appreciate.
I mean, dude drinks an entire vat of beer. And
He's
then
very coherent for that.
He pisses it off. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to drink for a while.
Puts out a fire.
Puts out a fire.
They didn't have that in the $8 million budget.
That
to-
was in the B reel though. They didn't have more time to squeeze that in there.
Just him let loose all over. The firemen were actually giving him props for it. They're like, we didn't
Yeah.
get to see. We see him fishing up, and they're like, yeah,
There's a
man.
big emphasis on, escaping certain death in this movie for sure.
That's the Hamlet.
They came
Yeah.
up with the upside down beer bottles inside of the truck.
Dude, that was actually
There was the hook moment where he the hockey player jumps into the water and breathes oxygen into her lungs and she swims out. You guys remember that in Hook, right?
Yeah.
It's an erotic scene.
The mermaid used a beer bottle.
Oh, I love that scene.
Well, I mean, if we're talking some of my favorite scenes, of course, when the dog drops the disc and then rolls up the roof, physically it doesn't make any sense, but the dog rolls up the roof and they kind of look up, and then of course, dealing with the media.
It's so great.
Has anybody ever dealt with the media better?
Dude, no.
That's where this
No.
movie grabbed me.
Yeah.
I mean, just fucks everybody up, and then some reporter, she's like, "Fuck this."
This is
And
my
she
day.
tries to step up. And she
I wish-
drops her notebook.
I wish she would have come with a little bit more game because she gets fucked up, dude. He fucks that lady up.
Really quick. It's not even a fight. She gets one punch in, and then he drops the kick to the chest, and then just like about 3 punches in a row to drop her, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
I guess I'd want to ask these guys. I'd want to know, like, were you so stoked when you saw Half Baked and the dog flies through the air?
Dude.
Was that a direct ripoff of this movie? Because
I
I had no
love-
idea until I watched this movie.
100% love that you bring that up, because I think that they were definitely throwing a little homage to Strange Brew. First time I saw Nibbles cruising along after he smokes the weed, I was like, dude, that's fucking just like Hosehead in Strange Brew. 100%. Yes.
Hosehead, by the
100%.
way, is maybe the best dog name, I will say.
We put it into penisnamer.com or whatever the website was, and that's what they gave me, hose dog or whatever. it was.
Hosehead and the
Hosehound.
jellies.
one of Bev's best sponsors.
Oh yeah, they're one of our
Penisnamer.com.
longest tenured sponsors.
So one of the things I will say that early on there were a few things that, despite my disdain, were really like I thought were both clever and funny, and one of them that I would commend them on, but also like ask what they're thinking is like, why start with this such a meta? Like, it's a very meta start. Like,
It's so
it's a
ridiculous.
movie within a movie, but it's not really a movie. It's unclear. And then I thought it was especially fun that that their opening bit was to explain the difference between movies and TV, which I'm like, Zach, were you paying attention? Because this is relevant for all of our drafts.
That was very topical.
Yeah, they were staring at Zach when they said that.
Yeah,
They're like,
but-
movies, TV.
But I love the I did like that part of it. I also thought like as just a like simple bit, pulling out the donut as a bribe, and then it totally cracks the whole thing open. I was like, oh, that's just gold.
That is a good moment from the
So
beginning.
great.
What about the guy outside when he's like, they've been saving up their allowance for weeks?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to tell him? Just what the hell am I supposed to tell him? That dad was so angry. He was so
So
dad
intense.
mad.
And he gives him $15 and he's like, cool. No worries. I guess we're good then, Rick.
Oh, that guy was so pissed off. He was angry.
Dude, there's so many questions that I would have for the directions that this went, but my main question would be, do you think this is a better movie if you made the entire movie of the way that their movie was in the very, very, very beginning, where he's just like wearing a jockstrap?
Well, and they had so I also was thinking of the movie Be Kind Rewind with Jack Black and how they had all the creative ways of making that movie. That opening when they're showing the van and it was supposed to be like, and it was on the wire going
so great.
across.
Or when it's definitely in a shop getting lowered.
Yes.
That's supposed to be
It's
like
actually
lowered.
like super fun, and like if they were to make that movie and play with it that way and be the first ones to kind of just keep taking it and it be them make that entire movie.
I'm with you.
I had a good time actually watching that bit, and like you're always curious, like, oh, what creative are they going to pull out paper plates next to be like a hoverboard, you know, and hover shoes or whatever? But
Did this pave the way for like Dumb and Dumber type movies?
So I have a proposed new category here that I'm gonna force upon you guys. anytime
Wow,
it
new
occurs to
category.
me. So my new category that it speaks directly to Zach's point here is, if a movie was a baby, how would you make it? And
Oh yeah, what movies would go together to make this movie?
And so this is a movie that for me was
Wait, you're talking about the category I created last week,
I don't listen to I don't listen to any of the pods.
where I said what Ready or Not. I said there was a foursome that created a baby. That
Oh
became
yes,
Ready
I'm
or
sorry.
Not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You had I did get that far into the pod. All
right.
Bradley,
and
there
it
it
did
is.
inspire me. And I thought that was a really great point. So
I thought it was so good I made it into my own idea.
I just decided to make it my
I
own
decided
category
it's my own idea,
with no credit whatsoever.
And no one ever said this before. I just thought of it. So Idiocracy and Cheech and Chong traveled back in time and had a threesome with Wayne's World.
Yes.
And that's this movie. But I will say that more than any other thing, right? Like Wayne's World is just the better version of this movie. So like even to the point where like they're in their basement doing this like hanky, you know, public television thing that kind of feels like the beginning of the movie.
Very much.
They're very north, you know, they're just south of the Canadian border and kind of have some of that affect. But it's that movie just it kicks. Like the music is really good. It has a sort of a story that moves it along. Tia Carrera's in it. I mean, there's some. So for me, and I was a huge Wayne's World fan as a kid, and I don't know how well it would hold up if I watched it again today. But for me, Wayne's World owes a lot to this movie, primarily to show them how not to do it.
No, that's I 100% agree with that. And the last point I want to make about this, when we got the directors here, is like the fact that they all got Max von Sydow. I mean, who is a classically trained. I mean, just a lot of epic movies that he was in his career. To do this just ridiculously silly. I mean, it's just absurd movie, and he was in it. And later on, he actually was stoked about it. He was not like ashamed. He wasn't like, oh my God, that was a terrible piece of shit. The reason he got into it, he asked his son. They had sent him the script because they kind of had him in mind for the Brewmeister. And he asked his son, and his son's like, oh yeah, Bob and Doug, they're great. They're on SCTV. They're hilarious. You should do this movie. He's like, fuck it, let's do it. And he put in fake teeth for the entire movie just to be like, why not? I want to have big ass fake teeth. And I guess that was his contribution.
I mean, I'm thinking if we're picking two movies that fucked and made this movie, I'm thinking Dumb and Dumber had sex with Austin Powers.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Jay and Silent Bob do Dumb and Dumber, do 1980s super plot-driven, unnecessarily plot-driven comedy. This is the perfect example where we're talking about on Anchorman of just trying to shoehorn in so much plot where it's like the entire first hour is a setup for the silly jokes at the end. We don't need any of that shit.
See, I would have liked a little better plot.
I would have had a question about the special effects. Like, I want to know at the time when it came out, were the special effects like kind of on par with the rest of kind of corny comedies? You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
they point it out in the movie. They say nice special effects, eh?
Star Wars came out like 7 years before this.
Yeah. So
Okay. So no.
a $4 million budget, maybe $3.5 million went to the special effects.
Dude, the dog flying. He's the dude. He's resting on like an ottoman, you know, and he's like, it's like he looks back,
Which is exactly like Half Baked did it, which is awesome.
It's
Which
awesome.
is even funnier.
It's
like,
great.
there's so much unnecessary like stuff in this movie, like the weird like way that the computer is like trying to tell them to do. They don't pay off any of the stuff that they set up. That's my biggest issue with it.
What about
Naked
Brewmeister?
Gun. Naked Gun's another one.
Oh
that,
yes.
Oh yeah.
that I was thinking about.
What about
that just-
Brewmeister getting shocked by the board? I mean, why are those little lights like super electric?
That's what I'm
I mean, I
talking
guess it's his spirit is like jumping through, like the dad's spirit is jumping through him. But
But at any point, if anyone touched those fucking lights, like they were done.
Dead.
Done.
dead.
Or the mom with her boobs out, like coming out and like not really having any sort of a character arc at all. Like she just like is there, comes in for this whole scene with the inspector where she's talking to him and saying all this stuff, and then she never shows back up again ever.
Yeah, she has one great joke in the movie where she says, "The Colonel's been dead for many years, and here we are enjoying his chicken." It's like such a stupid line.
That is one of the better lines in the movie. I like that.
She's like, "That's why I'm fucking your uncle."
It's like the table of Ricky Bobby's like dinner table.
All right, so yeah, I'm glad you all enjoyed the movie.
Thanks, Rick. Come back when we do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I'm feeling a little bit like Zach when he shows
Frailty.
Frailty.
Just retreat.
Oh, God.
retreat.
I'm glad you brought that up, Brad, because I talked to my wife before she left, and I was like, if this movie doesn't get any better, I'm just going to have to shit on it on the pod, and I feel bad for Brad because he likes this movie. I don't want to shit on it. And she goes, Brad shit on Frailty. You can say I was like, you know what? You're right. He did.
Egging you on.
I love it because I'm not backing down on Strange Brew. Fuck that. I'm not going to give any apologies. This episode of Bez Video Kingdom is brought to you by Jack Hockland, attorney at law. Need a lawyer who's ready to defend you with intensive knowledge about the Canadian Criminal Code? Need a lawyer who knows the right time to deliver a split plea? Need a lawyer who's ready to throw hands at the drop of a notebook? Then you need Jack Hockland, attorney at law, on your side. Jack will fight hard for you both literally and figuratively at all points of your case, whether it's a vicious cross-examination of an alleged witness or a vicious right cross upside the head of some nosy reporter. Jack has got you covered. Don't let the court system jerk you around. Let Jack roundhouse kick the haters in the teeth while delivering you a win in the courthouse. Jack Hockland, attorney at law, delivering justice for you and concussions for anybody dumb enough to step to him.
It's the press.
I'll handle this.
He handles it a little bit overzealous, if you ask me.
That lady that squares up on him. It's
Oh, my
fucking great. He just
God.
kicks her right in the chest.
All right, so we are on to Shag, Snag, Body Bag. You know, it's kind of like our fuck, marry, kill. So we're going to go ahead and just get really horny with something for a second here. And Nate, I want to know, you had to shag something from this movie, correct?
Absolutely. So the fact that they get themselves into the factory by just acting like they should be there, just telling them.
Oh,
It's the mouse in the
Wedding
beer bottle.
Crashers theory.
The general, like, if you act like you belong there, people think you belong there, is such a great. And this, my dad who listens to some of these, so hopefully, Dad, you're out there listening, and I'm going to make you proud. So my dad used to like egg me on constantly when I was in college because, you know, he's like, well, you guys are poor college students. What you need to do is you need to go down to the local hotel and figure out what convention they're having. And you just need to go to find like the hospitality suite or the hospitality room at like 5 p.m. Just go in there and tell, figure out what they're doing. Just, come up with a couple of lines.
You guys got a
act
plate
like
for
you're
this
there.
buffet?
Like and eat free all the time.
Yes.
So he would like bug me about doing this. I never did. And finally this one time there was like, they were having this like pharmacist convention or something, and I was like, fine, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So sure enough, I go down there and I walk in and I kind of looking real nervous, and I just start making stuff up. Man, me and one of my roommates just had the best old time hanging out with these pharmacists and eating all their food, and we just acted like we were supposed to be there. So thanks, Dad, and thanks, Strange Brew, for showing us how it's done.
There you
good
go.
shit.
That's good shit. So my shag here is, so maybe it's because I had the older brother and goddamn, we had a volatile relationship, but at the end we always loved each other. But the brotherly relationship in Strange Brew, the fact that half the time they're trying to go ahead and just argue with each other. They're accusing each other of murder. They're trying to call the police on each other and steamrolling each other. But then at the end, like when they actually kind of go apart for the first time, I mean, it's emotional. Like you can tell that they were like, oh shit, we have to be apart from each other. Like, this is sad. Like they were not digging it. And so that brotherly relationship where they're, as much as they hate on each other and they give each other shit and fight, in the end, they really like truly love each other and want to support each other. So the brotherly relationship, I'm full on 100% backing that up. And I think that's part of my love for this movie is just the brotherly relationship that reminds me of me and my brother a little bit.
I've got two sons, 9 and 11, and they act exactly like these fucking guys. Pinching each other, hitting each other, wrestling around, steamrolling, all that shit.
But the end, they still love each other deeply, right?
I fucking hope so.
All right. I'm gonna shag just Canada popping out comedians.
Yeah.
You got John Candy, Moranis. I mean, Dave Thomas. I had recognized him, and I know he's been probably supporting in a lot of other comedies. But then we're even talking about current day comedy shows: Letterkenny, Working Moms, Trailer Park Boys, and Schitt's Creek, probably most recent. And just like cleaning up as far as
Jim Carrey's Canadian, right?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's
many.
more. Yeah, there's
Mike
a ton.
Myers, Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
Right. So there's crazy talent coming out of the big white north and
Great White North.
Yeah. And
Get it right, man.
what didn't I say? Great white north? No.
You said big white.
You said
North.
big.
I said
North.
big white north.
Sure did.
That's all right.
Sorry, Canada.
Canada hates you now.
Sorry. But as much as I like
bet it.
talk shit on the movie, I appreciate where they're coming from, and I know what Moranis ended up doing, and I love you, Canada. At the end of the day, so you're funny.
Beautiful.
You're funny and stuff.
I'm glad I get to go after Nick because I had a very similar shag, and that was just like committing to an accent, whether to your detriment or not, as we've shown with our commercials here. But the A thing, right?
Oh man.
Is it? Do they really say it that often?
No,
There's no chance, right?
no way.
I say.
There's a lot.
You know what? I don't want to live in a world where they don't.
You know how
I'm gonna
we-
believe
So
they
y'all
do.
don't watch enough hockey because I mean, there's definitely when the players. Hey, I mean, and they
Really?
they drop it. Yeah, Canadian. Those deep Canadians, dude. The Canadian Hicks.
When we watched Pulp Fiction, we said that it said like the motherfucker like 263 times in the movie. They said A 8,000 times in this hour and 35 minutes. Every sentence ended with the postfix. Is that right? The postfix of A. And I like the hoser stuff. I liked all of it. I just feel like they leaned hard on the A. And God, dude, while it is funny in small doses, I feel like by the second hour, I was like, oh, okay, we're still saying A, huh? But
I
commitment-
never get tired of that.
The
shit.
commitment
That's
to the
my
accent.
favorite thing about it.
I appreciate that you respect the commitment. That's something worth shagging for sure. You're like, you know
I
what?
appreciate
you
a B or a
went
G.
to it.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. It's like when DiCaprio does his Boston accent or when it just, you got to commit and you got to say ka or whatever it is. I love it.
All right, so let's move on to our snags. These are the things we're taking home to mom. We're gonna cuddle with a little bit. So,
All right.
Nick, what you got for snags here?
Just sentimental movies that just never get old. I mean, I mentioned it at the start in the intro as far as the movies that I felt bad. I felt guilty about, how I felt about this movie because I knew how much Brad loved it. And the ones that just, it doesn't matter. You're blind to whatever, faults or whatever anybody else hates about it. Like Best of Times, like I said, to me, and I think to Brad, it's practically a perfect movie for multiple reasons. And whether it's because your dad introduced it to you or whatever, or your brother, and it just ages like fine wine. And then when you introduce that to somebody, you don't care, how they feel. You just want to introduce it to them, and whether they like it or not, that's all good. That movie is going to stay, close to you no matter what. So I'm shagging that, forever. Those movies that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, they're
nostalgia.
gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gold.
Man, I mean, base man, you spoke from my heart right there.
There you
That
go,
was
bud.
Beautiful.
There you go, bud.
Single. Brad's got
beautiful.
that single
for you,
tear
bro.
rolling
I'm
down.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm here, bro.
A single
Just-
tear in that shit. My snag is, God damn it, Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis is, if you grew up in the 80s, it's just a guy that has been in so many damn great movies, so many good roles. It's sad that, the tragic situation that left him to decide to leave Hollywood. I mean, his wife died of cancer, and so
I
he
did
wanted to
not
raise
know
his
this.
kids, and he basically left Hollywood to raise his kids. still was doing some voice work here and there. I mean, he wasn't completely out, but I mean, think of these movies. You have Strange Brew, Parenthood, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Ghostbusters, Spaceballs, Little Giants. I mean, the guy was just a monster, just putting out hits.
And he is not your typical male lead, I would say, pretty safely.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And not even maybe like in some ways your typical comedy. Like they're sort of like he's neither the heartthrob nor the classic like comedy guy. He just works. Like it's just he hits it. He does his thing and it works well.
I mean, Spaceballs, you take a role like Spaceballs where, I mean, he was just like, I mean, he's basically the lead of that movie. I mean, regardless of all the other characters, he's the one that you're paying attention to. He's evil. He's mean. He's a little guy with glasses, but yet he still controls as like this evil guy. And it's great. It's 100% awesome. Rick Moranis, I wish we would have got to do more. Brian Reynolds has his little phone company. I think it's called Mint. And he brought him back just recently for a commercial. He's like, we paid a lot of money to get Rick Moranis out here. And he's like, and I don't even want to talk about my phones. Hey, Rick, how you doing? And Rick Moranis comes out and just kind of like, this is what I'm here for? It's like, yeah, just wanted to say hi to you. And I was like, that's Ryan Reynolds might be, some people hate him, some people don't like him. I actually really like him. And
who doesn't like Ryan Reynolds? And whose ass do I need to kick?
People that like funny stuff.
Zach doesn't like Ryan
You
Reynolds.
don't like Ryan Reynolds?
The table, hold on to the table. Nick, we'll hold on the table.
He's talked
don't
about
throw it
this.
over.
Zach
What
has
are
talked
you
about
fucking talking about?
Just I like Ryan Reynolds as a beautiful man.
He's
got
beautiful.
amazing.
He's got a beautiful
amazing
wife.
abs. I love.
He's
Blake
funny.
Lively. Hey, if we're talking about
What don't you like about him?
I don't think he's that funny or talented at acting. He's also Canadian. That's what he's got going
Well,
for him.
that was my point. Is that I love that the younger Canadian comedy guy is going ahead and just giving some props to the old school forefather for him in Canadian comedy.
I'm going to make you watch Definitely Maybe, Zach, and then we're going to talk.
Okay.
That sounds amazing.
And can I just say that Moranis is different in like a lot of those roles?
Yeah.
Like it's not, he's got the wholesome, he's got the off the wall, he's got Strange Brew, but then he's got Ghostbusters. I mean, he kind of jumps around in a short amount of time more than a lot of other comedic actors who like, Will Ferrell, we love him. Similar, it's all the same Will Ferrell, different characters. It's different, right? I mean, it's different. Moranis is,
I
he can
think
jump
so.
to wholesome better than a lot of comedy actors, or maybe better
a little
than
stereotyped
most.
into kind of the
Into the
dorky
nerd role, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
A little stereotyped into that, but at the same time,
But still the caring dad that you like buy, like in Little Giants
Yeah.
and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that you actually like that's not ruining the movie.
Well, apparently he wasn't acting since he quit acting to go care for his children, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
fuck.
that's you got to give him props for that
yeah.
too. I mean, just being
Like Kevin Spacey, he
went
brought
full
his-
method.
Yeah.
wait, let's not
Wait,
compare
sorry.
Rick Moranis with
What?
Kevin
Wait,
Spacey.
what?
Where are we going with
What
that?
do you like Kevin
No,
Spacey?
just last week on the pod, we talked about how Kevin Spacey was really good at playing a creep, and we just couldn't believe like how he ended up being a creep in real life because he was just being real. So Rick Moranis is a
super
great
method.
dad. Yeah, super.
Oh,
method.
okay.
Was that weird? Did
thank
I?
you.
So full circle. Kevin Spacey and Rick Moranis are essentially the same person. That's
So
what we're saying.
according to
Okay, got
Brad, Max von Sydow sucks.
it. Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nailed it.
No, he does not.
He does not suck.
I don't know what I was
Sorry,
saying.
no, I'm kidding.
That part was cut out.
It's probably not. Zach, what are you snagging from this movie, my friend?
Okay, so I am snagging. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but just when a comedy knows to go off the rails. Like when they make the decision to have those guys live inside of the van, off of the air coming out of the thing, when the dog flies through the air, all that kind of stuff. I like that. If you're
Drinking
not gonna,
all the beer.
Are
in
you
a
saying the movie
gigantic
knew?
Zappac.
Are you saying the movie knew to get off the rails at an hour?
This is
10?
there's a time in the movie where the movie goes, all right, this shit isn't working, let's get fucking wild, and then all of a
get this
sudden
shit on
like all
blocks.
this weird shit happens, and then people started laughing, and I think that I like that. I think there's a lot of movies like that. This movie could have started to get weird a little bit earlier for me, but I thought it was I thought at the end saved it greatly for me.
So I'm going to snag something very simple. I want that double beer bottle opener that he breaks out.
While they're in
For the
the
love of God,
on
somebody get me the double beer bottle.
bottling
opener.
line, yeah.
Yeah, he just breaks it out like it's it's like in his coat pocket.
He goes, I stole this, eh?
I'm snagging that. That's what I want.
That's a good one. I do dig that. So, all right, now we're down to. I'm a little nervous here. Let's go ahead and body bag some things, folks.
Don't be.
What are we gonna body bag? I'm gonna start with mine because it's gonna be the most positive, I'm sure, and I think it's gonna be very disagreeable with the boys. I'm assuming. My body bag is the fact that a sequel was not made. There was talks that they were going to do a rather than Strange Brew, it was going to be called Homebrew. Right in the late 90s when home brewing started to kind of become a thing, that was going to be kind of the premise of the movie. They had some plans to do it, and then it just never actually worked out. And I would have wanted to see it. I don't care if it would have been terrible. I wanted more Bob and Doug. They've done a cartoon. They did the 24-year anniversary for the old 2-4 case of beer. They did an anniversary show that was okay, but I wanted more Bob and Doug, so I would have appreciated that sequel, and I'm sad that it did not happen. So that's my body bag.
That's an insane take, Brad. I'm gonna go. My body bag is, again, we talked about it on Anchorman, trying to shoehorn plot into places that don't need fucking plot. We don't need all this backstory and all this shit explained to us and all the weird electronic shit and all of that. Just let these guys be silly and have fun and be funny on film. That's why I think that I gravitate more towards the Apatow type comedies, because they're putting these guys in scenes and letting them kind of act their way out of it or riff out of it or whatever it is. And in these, I feel like they're putting these guys in scenes and then being like, but don't riff too much because we've got to make sure that we drive the plot. You know what I mean?
Scene after scene after different thing, and they're riffing, right, like the whole time, but it's kind of broken up.
I feel and I feel like they're really just pushing this narrative that is unnecessary. But like I said, I didn't hate the entire thing. What do you got, Nick?
So because we weren't watching a high school play, a performance in the theater, painted backgrounds is my body bag. It was in Idiocracy, and maybe we can thank Strange Brew for painted backgrounds in a moving picture. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's it's funny and comical to see in a movie. But you cannot take your eyes off it. The clouds don't move. Nothing moves outside of the car going up the hill. Everything is just still, and it's. I mean, it's funny because you're like, oh, okay, that's a painting of a brewery, and then
people have pointed out that like when you actually see like the real brewery and stuff, it's like the letters are different. Like it doesn't even actually look exactly like the buildings that they're actually using. So it was some really bad painting.
It's funny. I mean, I had to reach for that one, but Idiocracy, it's kind of funny. I was trying to think if it fits in Idiocracy because of how ridiculous that movie is, and if it would have been better if it was more like accurate CGI, because there's moments in that where it's painted.
Yeah, but Idiocracy, like I was saying earlier, Idiocracy goes completely off the rails early on. You know what I mean? Like this movie could have benefited from just going completely apeshit from the very beginning.
And I feel like Idiocracy didn't throw as many things into the plot, right, even as much as Strange Brew did. I don't know how Brad feels, but I know. But anyways, painted backgrounds for me, body bagging him.
So, I mean, do I want to just body bag the whole film? No.
That would be a first, and I would respect you if you did.
I want to do that. I really do, because it was a little bit of an unpleasant experience on it. But there were enough nuggets in there, and there was enough like gold there beneath those.
We talking
shit
about your
hills.
shit?
I'm supposed to be taking you seriously while you're holding that sausage, just flopping in the wind.
I don't know what you're talking about. I may or may not be holding a chicken apple sausage
in tongs,
long ass pair of tongs.
It looks like I look like I'm holding I'm holding a roach with a giant roach clip.
Taking big old hit from that.
Oh jeez. So I'm gonna body bag the hockey shit. I think that of all the weirdness, that was the weirdest and the least like fun and funny for me. And this I know breaks Brad's heart, but I thought that was just sort of like unnecessarily strange, and I thought that there was other stuff that could have filled those valuable and precious minutes.
I was just waiting for the Hanson twins to show up the entire time. I was like, oh, this must be where the origin story.
It's the Hanson triplets.
So the
Origin story.
the
You're
theme
right.
song was a big thing on the show. It was a big thing on their album. Like they always like that whole thing, and the fact that they like implemented that into like becoming the song that actually makes them fight was kind of funny.
It's a
I
big
thought
deal.
I liked that.
It's hilarious that you bring that up because that was almost going to be my snag. Was just like in the workplace, like when your manager's coming and the guy goes whoo-hoo, and then like everybody like gets back to work. You know what I mean? Like a signal for everybody to. I like that.
In our restaurant, it used to when I worked at Outback, it was if you were a front of the house person and you were kind of near the back of the house, and if somebody went cuckoo, that meant they were all coming out to beat your ass. Like that means that you were caught, and every back of the house dude was going to come and start just punching on you. So it turned into brawls. It was
It's
crazy.
a very plausible scenario in those.
Hey, Brad, who's on Dead or Cameo this week?
You know what? The problem when you have a movie that came out in 1983 is that
A lot of people dead.
that's part of the problem. And you know what Max von Sydow, I will say, the dude had a long career post Strange Brew and was working well into the 2000s. So
Needful Things.
Minority Report.
Needful Things, baby.
He was the bad guy in Minority Report. So yeah, Needful Things. I mean,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was some things he was in. He passed away not too long ago, but not a single person on Cameo. So you know what? When we need to fill some time, there's somebody we can turn to.
It's
Who can we turn
your
to?
ASMR moment. I've been sitting here. I literally, we're sitting out here in our outdoor studio where there's a grill at the ready, and so we decided what better what better than a beer drinking Canadian movie to have as our ASMR moment than a big old sausage. So I grabbed a chicken apple sausage out of my fridge from Adele's. I threw it on the grill. I managed it. I got it off, and I'm holding it in these giant clips.
Nate's got this thing going right now where you take a sausage off of the grill and you're about to take a bite of it, and then you burn the entire inside of your mouth off, and then you're peeling it for the next 4 days.
I am going to burn my mouth.
You gotta get lower on the shaft. Dude. You're like really high. You're really close. You gotta get.
Come on, bro. Get near the base. There you
Give
go.
yourself some room.
There you go.
All right, so here's the ASMR moment.
I just got hard. That's the best ASMR moment ever.
Did
Oh,
you hear
my
that?
Lord.
Did you hear the snap?
Dude, that is a good sausage, Adele. She sings all those songs and she makes dope sausages.
Snappy.
Let's run that back.
Oh,
It's so homoerotic too, with the sausage and the tongs.
That snap that's hot.
If
my gosh.
if that clip gets stolen and like played on some porn site like a million times, do I get royalties on that?
I don't
We
know,
all
but
get
the
royalties.
sound effects are beautiful. I hope the sound effects get used for something because that
Is
was
there ever like a horror
delicious.
movie where a guy gets his dick bit off? That's the sound they're going to use for it.
That would make me so happy.
Oh my Lord!
We're gonna make a button out of that.
By the way, this is a delicious sausage.
I hope so. So yeah, we were out of the Cameo. Unfortunately, no Cameo. So that's 2 weeks in a row. We'll see what happens next week. But ASMR, there you go, sausage. Now we're on to streaming recommendations. It has been mentioned already in this podcast, but I got to go ahead and bring it out because if you like hick Canadians, you got to go over to Hulu and watch one of the funniest shows I've watched in the last couple of years. And it's just, man, if you like silly wordplay, silly scenarios, and beer drinking, fighting, some of the same stuff we got in Strange Brew, but definitely different than Strange Brew. Watch Letterkenny.
So I was just, let me just say that I was going to make the same recommendation. Brad sort of put me on this one and I jumped on it. It's a TV show, obviously, which means nothing to Zach in terms of the distinction, but
It explains it in this movie.
I will say that for me, like Letterkenny is Strange Brew done right. Like it is just so they do the weirdest long wordplay things and very odd scenes, and it just all works. Like I mean, it really works. So, and I'm not somebody that's predisposed to like the weird, but man, it's good.
Now, Nick, you mentioned you referenced Letterkenny earlier, so you dug it.
Yes, I did. I didn't get as far. I got. I think season 1, almost season 1.
Same
done.
here. We did like half for most of season 1.
But I was digging it. I just got distracted, and I need to get back around to it.
The goth kids in Letterkenny are my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, no, you got to get back into it. It hits hard for pretty much every season. There's some good laughs in every season. Every season you watch.
I got a couple. HBO Max, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, 2001. Just a movie that we talk about, maybe a movie going off the rails a little bit, plot line getting a little twisted, but still some parts, some you can rely on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back for some funny cameos. We talked about Will Ferrell, funny moments.
I don't like them apples, Will.
Tracy Morgan has a nice little cameo in there.
I don't know what the fuck you said, little boy.
I'm gonna get these.
But you're special. And then that's on HBO Max and all the regular Kevin Smith cast of characters. And then Beer Fest. Give me Beer Fest. You're gonna have to pay for it. $2.99 on Amazon with the Super Trooper crew.
I got the DVD, bruh.
Oh shit!
You don't come borrow it?
I wonder if anybody from that movie is going to get drafted here on Thursday.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
I hope so.
So for my streaming recommendations, I'm going to say the 2 movies that I said earlier that fucked and made this movie, Dumb and Dumber and Austin Powers, both streaming on HBO Max. Dumb and Dumber, I mean, I think I saw it twice in the theater. I went there for my birthday, brought a bunch of kids for my birthday. It was like the best movie that I've ever seen and one that holds up. We recently watched Ace Ventura Pet Detective, which was also one of my favorite movies of all time. And didn't watch it for about 30 years and then decided to watch it again. Bad decision.
Yeah, it does not hold up.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
And I loved that. I loved that movie.
That's one
Me too.
I've scrolled across
it does
multiple
not hold
times on either Netflix or whatever that it's on, and I just about pulled the trigger, and I was like, I don't know if that's going to hold up or not.
It was so funny back in the day, and I watched it maybe a year ago, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And now I know my dad's reaction was the same thing when I was watching it as a kid, and he would like walk in and be like, "What the hell are you watching?" And now I get my dad. I get where he was coming from.
Oh boy, Nate.
I'm jumping on your Letterkenny train.
All right, and the final one. Well, actually, you actually mentioned this earlier. The last one I'll drop is Wayne's World, and you can catch Wayne's World on Fubo, AMC Plus, and our favorite. I mean, just our longtime favorite,
Stizzers.
Nope, Pluto TV,
Pluto.
whatever the fuck that is.
There's some funny names that you
For you
made up.
7 listeners out there that have Pluto TV.
Fubo and Pluto. Either the 7 of you that got those, you can check
Fobu.
Fubo.
4 hours by us.
That's right.
That's what it stands for.
Oh boy! So we're gonna wrap this thing up by
Shout out
talking
P.
about.
Diddy.
We are Bez Video Kingdom. You know, we love the old school video store. That was where we found the magic back in the day. So we're walking in, we're strolling into Bev's Video Kingdom, and Strange Brew was probably not even there because you know what? I mean, it's probably checked out. It was probably at the Frank
checked
household.
out a lot. Yeah.
It was probably over at Scott's house. You know, somebody's house. They had that movie in their possession. So racking up all kinds of late fees.
They just called Bevs and said, "Hey, I'm going to pass it along to the Franca household. Is that cool?"
That's how we did it.
Pass
That's
along
how
the
we did it.
tab.
We just passed, hey, you know what, Bev? I'm not bringing it back, but I'm gonna go get it to Scott. So start charging him now, okay? But so we're gonna have to go ahead and create some either an alternate ending, or we're gonna take Strange Brew. We're gonna put it on a different shelf, move it, drop it somewhere else. And you know what? I'm going to start off again because you know what? I know there's going to be a lot of shittiness, and I just got to get my happiness out of the way first. So my alternate ending, and goddamn, this is going to piss you all off. You know what? The movie just continues. We follow Bob and Doug as they drive the big rig back, and we just keep seeing the stupid shit that they're getting into. Cannot get enough of them. My ideal Bob and Doug movie ends up around, about 3.5 hours. And that's where my alternate ending goes. It just keeps going. I want more. I need to find out more about what these guys
The
are getting
director's
into.
cut.
I can only imagine what plot they're trying to fit in after they drive away in that big truck.
I love that. Still, even at the very end, they're still threatening each other. he's like, you don't know how to drive a big rig, and he's like, oh no, come over, let's talk about it. And he just grabs him in the head. He's like, he's just fucking him up again. They're just always fighting, but they do love each other. Good brother relationship. All right.
I like their constant discussion on who's going to be the most sober to drive, or who's going to drive the truck.
Well, even in the very opening, like they're trying to pull out of the movie theater, and he's like, "Hey, my brother's drunk." He's like, "No, I'm not." Yell at the cops. I don't think you should do that.
Showing the cop his license while underwater. He's like, hang on. Did you check that license too? What was going on in Canada in the 80s? You just had like a...
Yeah.
It looks like my vaccination card. Somebody just wrote on it in a ballpoint pen. They just like wrote their name on it.
It wasn't too hard to get a fake ID back then. All right, so what do we got? Any reshelves or alternate ending?
I got a little alternate that, based off of your continuing, it's an origin story so that truck eventually has to stop at a gas station. They're in the States, though.
Nick, they only have 2 stops. They only can stop twice.
They find their way into the States, a gas station with this truck. They meet some, let's say Moranis meets a lady friend, makes a couple babies, brothers, who end up, they can't leave the front of that gas station liquor store.
Oh, I get it.
It's a little prequel, so 80s, cocaine and beer.
Toronto,
I guess
Toronto.
we're
They
hot.
down in Jersey. They take a wrong turn. They go from Toronto down to Jersey.
That's exactly what happens, and then weed becomes cool, and they got 2 brothers that like slinging it in front of a gas station they just can't leave. It's too close to home. It's the origin story for Jay and Silent Bob.
He made a CD player out of his mom's vibrator and chicken wire and shit.
good shit.
We got to do Kevin Smith one of these days.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, there will be.
We got some suggestions out there.
Plenty
We got
of
some
Kevin
suggestions
Yeah.
for some Kevin Smith.
We're gonna
Some
do
clerks.
Tusk. Pretty soon we'll do Tusk, and then you guys will be in. It's the one Kevin Smith I don't think any of you guys.
we're just gonna do an evening with Kevin Smith where he just talks, and we're just gonna he's up on stage and he just talks and interviews the audience.
interviews us.
No, he actually.
I'm in
just
for that episode.
Yeah.
We can probably get Kevin Smith
So
on.
what questions do you have for BVK, Kevin?
We're drinking with the director here, and he's asking us questions.
Kevin, I do love you. If you're ready to come on this podcast, open invitation. Man.
Hey, he's a
Anytime you
big
want.
podcaster, right? I mean, he's got a lot of pods.
Yeah, he kind of was one of the. Yeah, he's deep like Joe Rogan style.
He started like right after us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, those guys seem pretty successful.
Nate.
I have no alternate ending other than after the opening credits, I fall asleep and wake up at the end and never turn it back on.
I will give them a little bit of props. They did the you get the silly credits at the end where they
I will say I liked the lion at the beginning.
Oh,
That was good.
I forgot about
breaking the
Burpang.
tail.
Yes, good
I will
call.
say that. So but maybe I get through that, and then I'm like, oh, this is cool. That was good. That was a good clip.
Like when they mess with the opening
Yeah,
thing,
I like that.
Like they don't do that
Like-
very often, but when they do,
Yeah.
it kind of locks you in a little bit.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
Did you guys watch the extended credits where they start just like going over the credits in the movie?
Oh shit,
Bro, I turned that shit off.
I had to like pound flour or something. dude.
So you didn't find out what a gaffer does?
What?
A
A
gaffer?
gaffer.
They
key
they
grip?
talk about the credits and they're like going through and like, oh, this guy he ate all the stuff at the food tray and blah blah blah. And like they're pointing at people and they're like they talk about what grips are and then they talk
okay.
about gaffers.
Oh, I
and
didn't see
he's
any
like
of that.
he's like so what's a gaffer? He's like gaff for me. He's like. That's what gaffers do. It's just stupid. They have a nice little credit sequence, but when they crank the tail, I'm like,
yeah.
was that lion just sedated as fuck? Like, did they just inject it with a bunch of shit?
Canadian lions are pretty calm.
Yeah, they're pretty
Early
calm.
80s, loose.
They
Lions
just
like, rawr,
shit ton of volume into
Sorry.
that lion so they could just crank its tail.
rawr,
It's
you
not even tripping.
hoser.
All right, well, I mean, I can't say that I expected this to go better than it did.
Scotch Beck is never coming on to this
After
podcast.
what I said
Oh.
about Scotch a couple
He's gonna
episodes
be like,
ago,
you fucking guys.
Man.
coupled with our strange brew.
Hopefully this episode won't download for him.
I mean, if we're talking about single tears, he's going to be at least multiple tears probably coming down his face. He's just like, God, fuck these guys. I thought I liked them.
Next
crying.
episode, he comes in just raging.
Oh, that just reminds me when they're in the prison cell and it just cuts to them like having story time with all the prisoners.
So I was thinking of Dirty Work with Norm Macdonald.
Oh, yeah,
dude.
good call. All
It's
right.
the lack of
great.
respect. Really, that hurts the most.
It's like, yeah, we
don't need a lawyer. He'd probably just kill him.
Yeah,
anyways.
lawyers are for sucks. We'd probably just kill him anyway. Your lawyers are here. they sprint out.
That's where the movie got me. I was like, all right, this is silly.
In the loony bin, the steamroller scene, I mean, if you watch
Yeah.
it very like specifically detail, when Rick Moranis tries to go for his steamroll, he actually gets elbowed first in the face, like, and then he gets the sideways steamroll. So it's not that like just over the top. It's
No.
like he goes vertically over him, so he squishes his head and everything. It's just
He got him good. I actually noticed.
When you're the little brother, you got to play dirty.
no, the big brother gets him. The big brother just
Oh,
rolls over
gets
him.
Rick Moranis?
Yeah, he rolls over him once, and then he rolls over the second time. Rick Moranis gets no love in that one.
Dude,
All right.
Is that it? Or did we get through Strange Brew?
I think we got through it. And you know what?
I'm glad.
I feel better for it.
I'm glad that you picked it because it's been way too long that I haven't seen it, and it's been
I'm
talked
glad that
about.
it's been in your that you guys. A lot of you guys had either half seen it or not seen it, and
I find it amusing that I've watched Strange Brew before you watched Shawshank Redemption, which you are going to watch.
I'm done with him watching Shawshank.
I'm still waiting.
We're going to have
it's
Scott
coming.
sit in when we do Shawshank. Brad's not invited.
So Brad just rolled in with these new stickers. We got some.
Oh my God, you guys.
We don't know how we don't know how we're going to give them out to you yet, but they're coming. So we'll post a little pic on the website or on the Facebook, and on the Insta and on the Twit.
Tactile media.
They are cool.
Hey,
and
check
you
this
can
out.
Put them on things.
You know what? I got a plan. You know what? If you go ahead and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and you say some nice things, you leave a 5-star, and at the end you say, "Hey, send me a sticker." We'll try to figure out a contact.
I was like, how are we going to
make that happen?
How about this? You leave that one, and then you message us on any of our many social medias and tell us that
I'm
was
the
me.
one who
I like
left
that.
the. There you go.
and
That
then you
works.
send us your address. We will show up at your house and hang out with you for a while, and then we'll give you a sticker. No.
And you got to show us a screenshot that you have clicked the little check mark in the top right-hand corner of Apple iTunes podcast.
You're asking too much.
and then also
No.
just send us your bank account information and a picture of like a headshot.
We would
and
like a
credit card
500
info,
page.
we will
write-up.
charge you $500, and you'll get a sticker.
Watch our social media, and we will tell you how to get yourself a sticker because they're awesome, and because Bev's Video Kingdom loves you.
Speaking of social media, we've had quite a few people reach out wanting to be ambassadors for the podcast.
Promoters from Bangladesh.
Yeah, they're all from.
The Bangladeshis, they like us. Is that not?
All of them are from a similar area of the world, and they all have our best interest in mind. And as somebody said earlier, their uncle is the predisposed or indisposed king of a small.
I believe it's pre-deposed.
Predisposed?
Indisposed.
Indisposed?
Might
Just
also be
busy. They're just
indisposed.
busy.
It's like
people.
similar to when Nate was shitting last week. The king is just like shitting himself, and he needs your money to help him get off of the throne.
Are we still banned in Turkey? Are we still? Is Bev's Video
No, we have
Kingdom?
some fans in Turkey, so I think we're actually doing all right. But I think that was just a trailer thing. But other than that, I think we're back in Turkey.
big in Constantinople. That's what I'm hearing.
Was it Ergadon? Is that his name?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Istanbul-
Lord of the Rings,
Istanbul
bro. Is that what we're talking about?
Ergadon is, I guess, a piece
I
of
think
shit.
we've gotten fully.
Speaking of off the rails and on blocks, let's roll.
All right, I think it's time to get out of here, folks. That was Strange Brew. It was a fun journey. It's a movie I've seen more times than I've seen Shawshank Redemption. So I'm glad we got to talk about it. And check us out on Thursday. We're going to be talking about the most memorable drinking or drunk scenes in movies.
It'll be a good one.
We got some big revelations coming, guys.
Oh,
Get ready.
Lots of drinking,
Shit's about to get real.
pukes, drinks, just silliness. It's going to be a fun one. So catch us Thursday. Have a great day. Take off, eh?
See you, hosers.
Hosers.
Zach and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start